Hello, my name is Audrey Gordon, and I'd like to welcome you to day 9 of the Dataverse Advent Calendar. Today we're going to talk about table views. Honestly, one of my favorite topics, because Dataverse allows you to do so much with views in your configurations that you do in order to make data access easy for your users to consume. So basically, think of a view as a way to view data in a particular set of filters and columns, but also think about it in relation to your app consumers or your solution consumers, the people who will be using this app. As a maker, you'll want to try to predict the type of views they will need in advance. But here's the even greater news. They can configure their own views all by themselves. And sometimes that helps because you don't have to predict every single thing they might want to do. They can also configure their own views and export them exactly the way they need to. You're going to find views in 3 experiences in Dataverse. You'll find it in the Dataverse workspace or in the hub of each table, right? So each table has its own landing page in the Dataverse workspace. I've been calling that the table hub, but this is where you'll see all the views associated with that table. And think of them as reusable views. They're not just for just one solution. You can use any combination of them across hundreds of solutions. So build it once for all solutions, or you can have customized versions for a particular solution. And over here in Power Apps, you'll see that I have jumped into the Dataverse workspace and I've selected a particular table name account. And here is my landing page. So it's kind of like, I call it a table hub, but it's all part of the Dataverse workspace. That is like a modern experience for how you work with your tables. And as part of that, you always have the views, and they're here under data experiences. And please note that anytime you see an I next to some words, it'll further clarify what that means. So data experiences are items people will see or use when data from the table is displayed in an app or a site. Right, so now we're going to go into views here, and these are the built-in views for accounts. And you get quite a few. So what we'll do is we'll look at a couple of these, kind of see what they're doing, and then you can see how to revise them. Now I want to point out that anytime you see the word default, that means if I were to build an app right now, those views, those default views would show up in that context, right? You'll see that I have this demo app, and I just created it exactly like I just showed you. I did nothing else, okay? I just hit create app. When you hit create app, it creates the app against the model. And that's why these are called model-driven apps, because they are built based on your model, the way you modeled the data in that table. And all the things that you saw at the top of that landing page are considered when this app is built. All right. So the name of the app is what I typed when I created it, but this can be changed. And notice that since I built it from the account table, it includes the accounts in the navigation and as the primary grid on the main view, okay? And you can see the name of the view right here, My Active Accounts. Now let's see if I can just immediately play this just to get closer. I want to get a little closer. So now you see that says My Active Accounts, and these are the 4 columns in My Active Accounts. We saw the view called My Active Accounts, and here it is. This is what I call a pre-configured view, which means that before we built the solution, we built these views. All right, so usually you build your views and your forms before you actually create your apps. That way, when you create your apps, boom, boom, bam, you have all the views that you configured. So you can see this is how you would edit the My Active Accounts view. All right, and the columns that are there are the same columns we see here. Now, when I built a default app, however, it puts all those default views into my app for me, but it also includes other views, right? And so we can go look these up, my active contractor accounts, and we can go back to views. So I'm just going to go back to my views list. There's my active contractor accounts, and here are the fields that are included there. And please excuse me if I use the word field. It's the same as column. You can consider them interchangeable, field and column. All right, so this is the one that's in that view. So each view is actually given a name, and those that are default come up front. They kind of become the more active views. Now, what if I wanted to change my active accounts? I can go ahead and edit it, or I can clone it in case I want to keep this as a record, right? So let's say I edit this my active accounts, and I want to focus on a particular account type, right? So I can do save as my active, let's do my active customers, just to have something different. And then when I save as that view, now I can adjust the sorting and the filtering and the columns that are in it under that name, right? So I'm going to add a filter here. I believe I have a field called business type that I've been using quite a bit. It helps me filter my companies by their type, right? So I have some contractors, I have some public agencies, I have some design engineers. So I'm going to do the business type as contractor and say okay. So now this view, I probably should have named it my active contractors, or to be more accurate, right? And you can change it, contractors, right? And now this is going to be the view that is filtered in this way. All your filters are here. You can also change your sort up here. And if you want to add a column that's not there, so let's remove the email because we don't need it here. So I'll just use this handy header drop down. I love these because you can do a whole bunch of things with them. I'm going to remove that, and instead of having the annual revenue there, I'm going to put, let's put the account number. Okay, so now I have my active contractors exactly the way I like it, and I can press save and publish. Now that I've got that new view here, notice that it's not the default view. It is a public view that's available, but it's not the default view. All right, very important. So if I were to hard refresh my app that I made, I'm just going to do a control refresh so that it picks up any changes that have been made. There's the new view that I made. All right, and so, but I don't want all those views in there. I only want that one view in this app. I don't even want this one. So in that case, there's two things I'm going to do. First, in the list of views, I can turn this one off, right? Because I don't want that one. I think this is the one that I want. And then I can take that one that I had made and set it as the default view. So basically, I've decided that instead of using Dataverse's default view, we're going to use my default view. When I do this here, though, it's important to note that this applies to all solutions that I will make from now on, right? All solutions that I make from this data set are going to be model driven, and they're going to pick up that that's the new default. If you want to restrict it to just one solution, then you do the second thing that I'm going to do. So I'm going to go into my solution or into my app, and I'm going to click on account view. And here, whatever I add in this section over here is all that's going to show up in this app. Okay, so I'm going to add the, and I may have to, nope, there it is. my active contractors, I'm going to have this be the only view shown here. So once you configure this, the app is looking here to tell which views should it show. All right, as opposed to using the entire table schema, it's only going to use what you configure here. So I'm going to save, I'm going to publish that change. And then I'm going to go back to my app that I was playing and hard refresh. Okay, so I do that little hard refresh just to clear cache and get it back. And now you'll see the only view that is shown here with the account number is the My Active Contractors, and no other view is shown here. All right, so kind of a tricky trick. If you want to have apps that only have a certain amount of views, totally possible to do that. But if you'd like to configure your data models so that all other apps will have access to all the views, then I showed you how to do that. You do that from the pre-configured views. All right. Now, the wonderful thing about views from an end user experience is they automatically get quite a lot of functionality for manipulating these views. And this stands out to me as a person who does a lot of Canvas app as a very high value, because it saves me a lot of time when I'm building apps. When I build Canvas apps, I kind of have to build a lot of this functionality in control by control or by using PCF controls. In this case, it's automatically done for me. So a couple of things as far as the user experience goes on these views. I'm going to actually open up, I think I want to open up one with all the views, but let's try working directly from here. You notice at the top of each column, you have your sorting, right? So you can sort A to Z automatically built in. Nobody has to think about this. This is available from the Dataverse API, and so therefore you just automatically get sorting. You also get filtering. So you can filter, like say I want all account numbers that start with A. I can go in here and do begins with A, right? Because maybe I have a naming protocol on my account numbers and A means that's a certain industry, for instance, right? So by filtering down to starts with A, I get all of that industry. I can clear the filter the same way I created it. Now on the revenue column, when I'm sorting numbers, I can do highest to lowest or lowest to highest, or I can do numeric filters, right? Greater than or equal to, greater than, less than or equal to, less than, greater than, contains data, does not contain data. So I have those kind of things. Now, this is all dynamically happening. And the moment I start doing this kind of what I call dynamic filtering and sorting, you'll get this little asterisk that will occur after the name of the view. Now, what that asterisk means is that, hey, this is you. This is all you. This ain't nobody else but you. So if I navigate away from this, it may not save it, right? Next time I come in there, what I just did is forgotten. And other people will not see the changes that I made, right? So if I actually want to keep this begins with A as a filter I will go to regularly, I, as the end user, not even the admin, have the ability, should my security permissions permit this, in most cases they do, like basic user they do, then you can just save it as a new view. If you have sharing rights, you can share views as well. So if I save this as a new view, I can say my active contractors, and then I'll put up here A in parentheses, which means, you know, these are A industry customers. All right, and then I'll hit save. So now, notice the asterisk went away, but it's only for me, which means that this will not be visible to my buddies in a different business unit, right? So if I want to share this with another business unit or team or user, then I have to use the sharing feature, all right? But love the capability that I have as an end user to manipulate my views exactly the way I want them. You have some dynamic grouping here, but I will let you know that grouping is not available on every single field. And so I'll give you some documentation in the description as to how would you know, what fields can allow sorting, grouping, etc. If I show you tomorrow, I will show you Northwind forms, and in doing that, I might teach you how to download the Northwind solution, which will give you a lot of examples of how they used kind of like views and forms in the Northwind solution. All right, the other thing I can do is edit these columns live, right? So I can add columns, so I can just click add column. Now the beautiful thing about this is not only can I add columns directly from this table, but if I click on related, I can now add columns from tables that have relationships to this one. All right. And that could be any number of things. And let me see if I can find one. Let's see. How about let's see. I'm trying to find something like contact. So there's a primary contact here. And maybe I want the preferred method of contact for my primary contact, which is in a different table. And all of this can be sorted. Like I can just drag things around and change the order. And if I figure I messed up totally, I could reset it back to default. All right. So now I applied. I got my preferred method, and I got some roll-up figures here. And we talked about roll-up columns back a couple of days ago. Roll-up columns are rolling up the request for that account across many requests. So it's a very nice summing feel that you can use. That can easily be added to the view. Another thing I love about views is that they're easy to export. So let's say I'm in sales and I need, after I get all this down here, maybe I pull in a number of other columns and such. I can go ahead and I'm going to remove this one. Let's add another one. Limit, I think that's currency. So if the customer, well, they don't have any credit limits. This is sample data. But if they had a credit limit, that would show up here. Now, whatever I have in this view, and notice that because I added that credit limit, I got that asterisk back. That means, hey, you're not editing the view. You are doing a dynamic view right here. So if you need to save it, you're going to have to go back to that save changes to current view, or save it as a new view. One of those two decisions have to be made. Otherwise, if you leave this screen with that asterisk, you may not see this format again, right? But the beautiful thing about this is maybe I love Excel. I'm crazy about Excel. I can just go up here and export to Excel. And when I export to Excel, now I can play around with that data and make my own pivot charts and things like that. So let's see. Let's open up. It's not really enough data here for a pivot table. So I'll open an Excel online. Those of you that are interested in seeing pivots from views, put it in the description, and I'll try to add it to my to-do list because I love pivot tables. So wouldn't mind taking like 15 minutes to play around with some really useful pivot tables from Dataverse. So now I'm in Excel online. I can save this file to my desktop or to my OneDrive or whatever. That's all I have to do for that. Now, there are some templates. You can set up flows. The one thing other I want to show you that I love about views is if you turn this setting on, and I'll show you this setting, and we'll talk about it in a different day. There's a setting under features called Enable Power BI Quick Report Visualization on a Table. Now, it's really about the table's view, but when you turn that on, now if you click this, it will actually build for you some really dynamic visualizations based on the information in that view. So before you hit that button, make sure that your view has kind of the data you want to play around with or get insights about. And you can actually, it'll take a few seconds. It lets you know that it's thinking, right? It'll start creating visualizations for you. And when you can just navigate out, I'm done. You could take a screenshot for, say, your PowerPoint, or you could just click save and it will give you a PBIX. And you can put that PBIX in any workspace that you have, insights on accounts. And now you can share that workspace Power BI dashboard with others. And more important than that, in Power BI, you can now open that PBIX and edit those visualizations further, getting to exactly what you want people to get. So to me, views are just awesome. I didn't mention that down here you have these alphabets, A, B, C, D. And so if I wanted to get to litware, like let's say I had pages and pages of data and I wanted to get to litware faster, I could just click on L and it would filter it down to any account name starting with litware. So very, very cool stuff. You can add as many views as you want here. You can just keep adding views until you have all the views that you want to be available in the solution that you're building. In addition to that, you can have people make their own views. So I really love that. So that's all I wanted to share with you when it comes to views, even though I really think it's one of my favorite features is views. Remember that you can do both pre-configured, which means that you as the data steward or the person that's designing the data model, you kind of talk to your users and evaluate what's the type of data they want to see and what columns and how do they want to see it. Make sure you get feedback and then adjust your views accordingly to meet the needs of the majority. But let everybody know, hey, you can configure your own views. And seriously, if you use model-driven often, you'll only have to do that training on the first app you release, because every app works the same way if it's model-driven. So you'll cut down on training because people will just know that. They know they can create their own views. They'll know that they can export them and pivot them. So the beauty of model-driven, it's consistent. Once they get it, they've got it. You don't have to keep teaching it. And it's flexible enough for the end user to have their own experience. And people tend to engage much quicker when they have that capability of creating their own experience. All right, that is enough for day 9. I'll be talking to you again tomorrow for day 10. And just heads up, we'll be talking about forms. A lot of cool things I want to show you about forms as well. So I'll see you tomorrow in day 10 of the Dataverse Advent Calendar. Happy holidays!